Welcome back, listeners, to this episode of the Cosmic Conscience Podcast. Now, listeners, this is going to be such a beautiful one because today we are trying to understand that sometimes how the answers we seek, they aren't found in the noise. They rise in the quiet. Today we are not just talking about the healing, we are exploring what it really means to live a life that honors all living beings, a life in sync with peace, purpose, and planetary consciousness. My guest, the esteemed Dr. Will Tuttle, has spent decades walking, literally, the spiritual path. From his barefoot pilgrimage at just the age of 22 to his years as a Zen monk, and now as the author of the famous The World Peace Diet. His journey, it reminds us that healing the world begins with healing how we see it, how we perceive it. So let's all slow down, tune in, and get real about what it means to live and work from a place of spiritual truth. So, Dr. Will, welcome to the show, and as always, it is really an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Sana. I'm really delighted to be on the show with you. And thanks, everyone, for listening. Great to be here.
Yes, it is. It is. Dr. Will, for the fact I know that such a long, such a diverse journey, such a rich journey is very, very tough to summarize everything in 30 minutes. But one question that really I would love to ask you, because you have walked across states, you have meditated daily, you have also lived, you have survived without money. And that is actually a radical level of surrender. Like most people, even personally, I cannot imagine that today, I'll be very honest. How would you define spirituality?
Thank you. Yes, spirituality to me is a direct realization that one life lives through all appearances, all living beings, that we're all related, not merely because we're part of one creation, but that this benevolent universe is our very nature. We're not objects, we're not material bodies. We are the infinite and eternal consciousness that was never born and will never die awareness, and we're operating for a few short decades through these vehicles that we mistakenly identify ourselves with, the name and the form. And when that happens, then we suddenly find we're competing with others and we're judging and blaming, and we're afraid we might get sick and all these things. But when we come back home to our heart, to our true nature, and understand directly that we are non-corporeal consciousness, then our physical body, I think, does it finds itself much more in harmony. So spiritual healing is really an understanding of our true nature. And it goes completely contrary to everything we're told in our media and most everything we've been told in school and by our friends and neighbors. It's really different. It's understanding that we are consciousness, spiritual in the sense that we're not matter. And one of the things that I point out is that since we're all born and raised in a society where we're killing a lot of animals for food every day, regularly, routinely, without thinking anything about it, we think it's just fine to do that, that really not only harms these poor animals a lot, but it harms us because there's an underlying orientation of materialism. We think of them as just matter. We buy them and sell them just by the pound like they're rocks and cement or something. And then after doing that for thousands of years, we look at ourselves like we're just matter. We were born, we'll die. And we try to put a mask on, have a personality that is pleasing to other people so we can get what we want and let other people and so forth. And it's a struggle and it's a lot of suffering. And the ancient wisdom from India and from the ancient wisdom traditions all over the world really point in the direction that this never ends. It goes through many lifetimes. As long as we're deluded, well, we'll come back again and again and again and again until we finally wake up. So sooner or later, we learn that there's no happiness, no lasting happiness or joy or freedom in accumulating matter, in accumulating wealth or reputation or trying to avoid pain. And we begin to see that we're spiritual beings, we're consciousness. So it's really a wonderful adventure, actually, to understand this, and it's liberating on many levels. And I'm hoping that more and more people will listen to your program and and understand these ideas, because it makes our life, not only our own life, better, but everybody that we come in contact with. And I think it improves our relationships with other people, and it's wonderful for our physical health. I haven't been to a doctor or to a drugstore or a pharmacy, for anything since the early 1970s. I think it's over 50 years, and I love it. I've just stayed out of the whole medical system. I don't ever get sick or anything, and I think that's possible for all of us, really, if we do meditation, if we eat properly, if we try to cultivate healthy relationships with the people in our lives, and connect with the natural world, the beauty of nature, the water, the forests, the trees, the sky, the air, and eat food that's grown locally if possible, and be creative. That I think creativity is a very important part of being healthy. So I'm really glad that I learned when I was a little child to play the piano, and I've been playing my whole life, and I still, right now, I travel the whole country, the whole world actually, and give concerts of piano music, because I think music is like art. These are expressions of spirituality, and with music, I can say things musically that I could never say in words, because you can't argue with a D minor chord. It's like, either just play music, let it. I learned. I was classically trained, and all the Mozart and Beethoven and all that, and then I was a church organist in high school. Back when I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, I played the organ at the local Methodist church. And later I decided, as I kept playing and learning more and more, to never play anybody else's music and just start composing my own music and letting the music flow through me as a meditation. So I learned that if I could just stop thinking and just be an open channel, and this beautiful music would start pouring through, if I don't know where it came from. And when people would hear that music, they would have tears flowing down. And I had people saying that they had psychological, emotional healing. They even had physical healing. I even had people who had physical pains and things went away just by hearing the music. And so that opened up a whole doorway. So for many years, for at least over 25 years, I've been playing not only concerts of healing music, but also doing individual sessions with people where they'll sit by the piano for half an hour, and I'll play music that's inspired by their spirit and make a recording. In the early days, it was a cassette, and now it's a CD, or I can just, send it to them iPhone. But yeah, we've been doing those. I do those, and my wife Madeline, actually, she's an artist, and so when she came over, I met her in Switzerland, and so she does, at the same time, she does a painting of the spiritual symbols of the person that they can hang on their wall. And we've done hundreds of these, and people really, again, they say they get a lot of healing from that experience and from listening to music. Because I think all of us as human beings we're spiritual beings, and we have our own unique rhythms and melodies and harmonies. And when we get in touch with those, it helps to bring us back home to our uh, feeling of harmony and peace and oneness with our true nature. So music is fantastic because you can't argue with it. It goes very deeply in. And one of the big problems in our society today is that there's a lot of very aggressive, disharmonious music being spread especially among young people. And so whenever I play a concert or play for people, I always take a moment and say a prayer, knowing that this music will be for the highest good of everyone who's ever touched by it, and dedicate music to the highest unfoldment of peace and freedom and awareness. Because being an artist or a musician is a very sacred responsibility, where people are opening to our creation. So it's really important for us to do the inner work so that we get out of the way and we're not polluting the flow, and let the spiritual joy and freedom and peace and harmony and love of the universe to come through us as a blessing to others. And it doesn't just bless others, it blesses me too as I'm playing. That's the wonderful thing. So I think I've been very, like you say, I've been very blessed. I had just a lot of good fortune to learn to play music, and then to hear spiritual teachings when I was young, and then to leave everything. I thought there's nothing more important than this, and it's gotten just better and better over the years, because I think if once we understand that we're spiritual beings and not just a physical body with a bunch of experiences and memories and desires and fears, then we have a whole new foundation for our life. And we're not trying to get something from somebody else. I think that's the big problem, is people think, oh, if I could only get some more money, or if I could only have people say nice things to me, or whatever. But we realize that joy is our true nature. It doesn't need anything in the outer world. We're joy. Just to open our eyes and see the beauty of the trees around us, that we don't need anything more. And our joy is just inherent as our true nature. So instead of trying to get joy or get something, we become givers. We like to try to give joy. And so I try to do that, through music and through writing and whatever we can do. And through like this opportunity that you're creating with your wonderful platform to help have these conversations. That's part of it. And it's a fantastic thing, really, that we can share this way and question all the official stories in our society that make us afraid of each other and so forth. Yeah. So thank you. It's a great question.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful, like, a story, Dr. Will, that you just like weaved through your words and experiences, and also there's practicality as well.
Right.
I have so many questions. Like, first thing, before the question, one thing which personally I connect with you so well is music. And to be honest, you know, I don't know. People will say that, oh my goodness, you're growing old, so you'll always say that say that the songs and music in your time was better than the current one. There are few tunes and songs maybe nowadays which are good, but I think it is made with a different intention, because that is something that maybe is the final output that everybody will reward. Maybe the industry or the people or the consumers would also reward, like going something like kind of a trend, not exactly how it is, what it is trying to tell you, what message it is trying to give you, maybe the tune or the music or the song. Because one thing which I've observed is, Dr. Will, that the most creative people are also very emotional. deep down. They're very, very emotional. Without emotions, I don't think, especially music, it can be made or it can be even appreciated. So that is something that, connects with me very deeply, because there are days where even a beautiful um, tune of piano will make me cry, or, evoke so many emotions. Or maybe a very uplifting tune on a cello will give me that energy, invigorate me, just getting out of the bed and doing something like that. So that is something that is very beautiful that you have told. And secondly, um, do you encounter skepticism, Dr. Will, around the fact that um, there's too much of consumerism? People are always running behind, external success and money. And what you are telling is something they may not be able to do it, because, after all, we need money to pay our bills.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Sana. I think um, you're certainly right about the first thing you said, that emotions are a big part of music. And to me, it's I like the word feelings, because emotions a lot of times are conflicted and create a misery for us. And I think sometimes if I'm in if I'm in a low mood, which doesn't happen that often, but if I was being like in a low mood and then listen to some low music, it could make me even lower. So some music is kind of sad, but the thing is, I think we have to use our intuition, our inner wisdom, to know what's the best music for us to be listening to at a certain time. And um, and then that's what I do. Also, I don't listen to music that much. I create my own music, and I love that. And my wife, every night before we go to bed, she lays down underneath the piano, and I play. And the music, we have a grand piano, and it's really powerful to have the music right so close and just going right into every cell of the being. And it's a wonderful kind of a ritual we have to just play uplifting and healing music, and then go right into our dreams at night. And I think, in the future, and probably in the past also, in earlier times, people understood better the importance of music that's really appropriate for our spiritual and psychological and emotional well-being, and to choose wisely, and to know what's the right music for me now. And I just love the fact that I get a statement every month from iTunes, and that my music is being played all over the world. That that at every moment there's someone listening to my music somewhere. It's always touching people, because I've sold so many albums in all over the world, everywhere, and so it's just kind of a nice feeling knowing that the music I've created is people are listening to it, and it's touching them, and it's helping them if they feel like drawn to it, and that I guess notices that my music's being Shazammed. People hear it and they go, "Ooh, what's that?" And they try to look it up. And so I think it's just a very personal thing that each one of us get in touch with feelings, and make sure that we're not listening to music that might not be appropriate. And then the idea of the practicality on your second point, that's a really important thing. There's no question about it. One of the things that I discovered when I was on the walk with my brother, and we had no money, and we left home right after college, and we thought we would walk across the United States on a spiritual pilgrimage and just meditate every day, and somehow we would find food. And it really was true. I have to say, we never went hungry. We sometimes miracles would happen. It seemed like. I remember one time it was the only time really the whole many months we really were kind of hungry. We hadn't eaten in maybe a whole day or something. And we were just walking along the road. We were heading south, and a little backcountry road. And then all of a sudden we came around a corner and there were these two sandwiches just wrapped up by the side of the road sitting there. And we were so grateful, but we weren't even surprised because we kept feeling and thinking to ourselves that teaching in the Bible that Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and everything else shall be added unto you. The most important thing in our life is our spiritual practice. And if we really focus on that, other things will take care of themselves. And so we found that it really was working. We were, we were being very kind of radical and just not worrying about money. And at one point, we ended up at a meditation center in Alabama. And I remember there was a book by Krishnamurti that I really, or Ramana Maharshi, a great sage from India. I really wanted to buy it, and they had it in the bookstore, but I didn't have any money. And so I went into the bookstore and I saw that their bathroom, needed to be painted. So I said, well, if I paint your bathroom, can I have the book? And he said, sure. So, it was really nice. But the underlying, and, eventually, I started working a few jobs because I knew how to type while I was living in the meditation center. And so I brought in some income like that. But the main focus of my life was my meditation practice. I got out to San Francisco and I was doing that. But I just found that all these synchronicities would happen. I would meet people. The most important thing is to focus on the spiritual practice and then be open also to, doing things if we need to somehow bring some funds in to pay for things. And I've just discovered over the years that the best thing is to just give. And so really for the last, I would say 40 years, I lived in meditation centers in my 20s. And that was really the only time I ever worked little jobs like typing or at a hotel. I did a few things. And then I got a master's degree and I taught college, which was really very enjoyable. And then I got my PhD degree, a doctorate degree, and taught college, continued to do that. But that didn't feel like work. It was just, I could go in and I was teaching philosophy. I could talk about like what we're talking about now, talk about the big issues. And I taught many different courses, philosophy, comparative religion, literature, creative writing, music. I taught courses in history and sociology, psychology in the San Francisco Bay Area. But then I just left that whole thing because I liked it, but I thought it was still, I wasn't really free. I had to grade the students, and so forth, part of a system. And so I bought a little, a Volkswagen bus, a small little van, and I just moved into that. And I started traveling around the country, giving concerts, playing the piano, and giving workshops on developing spiritual intuition. And it worked really well, and I went over to the Soviet. It was back then Russia was called the Soviet Union, and I did concerts for peace over there. And then I met my wife Madeline in Switzerland. She heard me play the piano, and it was so amazing. I just played the piano in this art gallery in Switzerland. And this woman came in and she listened to the music, and she asked if I had any recordings, and I did. I actually had one cassette with me, and so she bought my little cassette. And then I came back to the United States, and then she started writing to me, and then I wanted to do my first CD, and she said, well, I'm an artist, maybe I can do the cover for your CD. So she came over, and I thought she was a special person. And so we moved in together. She moved into my Volkswagen bus, and we got married. And she told me later that when I played the piano in Switzerland, that when she was a little girl, when she was only 5 years old, she heard this music in her mind, a melody, and she looked for it and looked for it her whole life. And she even, at one point, had her own music store in Basel, Switzerland. But she could never find that piece of music. And then when she said, when you came in and played the piano in that art gallery, that was it. That was the music I've been looking for my whole life. And so I thought, I have to know who this person is who made this. And so, she came over. We've been so wonderfully happily married for 32 years, and she's very spiritual and a longtime vegan also, and creates all the covers for my books and CDs and art, and so we could never plan this, but then we decided to go on the road and travel again in a trailer, like a bigger, it's called a RV. And we lived in that for 17 years, and we never charged for anything. We just did concerts and workshops, and people could just give what they wanted, give $5 or $10 or whatever. And, but it worked great. We just, accumulated enough money eventually to buy a house and have a garden and do all these things. So we still travel, but I never borrowed any money in my life ever from anybody. I just was able to somehow just give. And I think if we just find what we're here to do, the money will come. It will come, but we might have to do other things while we're learning, while we're getting better at whatever it is. But the most important thing is to just every day do something that we feel is contributing to our dream. We have a dream. Like for me, I thought I'd be great to just play music and make money playing music. But people said, no, you can never do that. And no, that's very difficult. But I found it really worked. We sold so many CDs and cassettes and did all these individual healing sessions. And so really, people gave us money for all that, and we could buy a house and food and do everything. And but it was mainly just by donation, just doing things by donation. So I think we all find our way. There was one point in my life when I was a Zen monk in Korea, where it was funny because when I was younger, I told my friends, I was living in these meditation centers, and we were talking about money, and I remember kind of joking and saying, I just want to get paid to meditate. It was kind of a joke. Then I was living as a Zen monk in Korea, and I realized, gosh, here I am. I'm getting paid to meditate. I really was. I mean, everything was taken care of. I was living in a monastery. All the food, everything you needed was there. I just meditated from 3 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night every day, 12, like 14 hours a day meditating. And, but I felt after quite a few months, I felt eventually I should go back to the United States and come back into our society again. So I did. But I really appreciate the opportunity I had to be a monk in South Korea and go deeper with the meditation. And I think, if someone's drawn to that, that's another possibility too. So there's many different avenues in this life. But the most important thing ultimately, I think, is to see ourselves, as I said earlier, as spiritual beings, and then let our life flow out of that, and doorways will open. You can't plan it. It's just these things will happen that support us on our journey.
I mean, it's I've said this earlier as well, listeners, and one of our other podcasts. I think Dr. Will, you are such an amazing storyteller, and I think these are not coincidences, or just people would call, oh, you got lucky. That's it. But how can we get lucky, every time? There is energy, there is intention, there is this connection, there is love. It's like, in its purest form. And maybe it could be a bit of luck, but I think it's a blessing. And also, Dr. Will, before we wrap up, I don't know, maybe it's a big question, but looking at the current times, um, how bullish or how optimistic you are when it comes to, um, peace or, the love that, we express towards Earth here. Because I think the more, and you also have said this, that the more we love the earth, the more the earth loves us back as well. But how optimistic you are that this will change, or it will need like immense level of um self-awareness, awakening, huge change, anything?
Yeah. Thank you, Sana. I think you're right. There's this feeling of being fortunate or being lucky, and I think there's a funny saying. My father always used to tell me this story. He used to say, Henry Ford, who invented the automobile, and he became very wealthy and powerful. Uh, and someone said to Henry Ford, "Wow, Mr. Ford, you're so lucky." And then Henry Ford said to him, "Yeah, it's a funny thing. The harder I work, the luckier I get." And I think that's a lot of truth to that. I feel very fortunate, but I do have to say it's a lot of work, a lot of inner work, a lot of diligence, a lot of just, no matter what, just doing one's best and taking time to really get up early in the morning and meditate for a few hours, and when other people are sleeping, and doing yoga and getting, really being proactive to do one's best. And that's really what brings so-called luck. I think it's work, actually, but it's not sort of self-centered. It's more just doing our best to purify our consciousness. And then your second question about the state of the world, I think, and how optimistic we can be. I think it's a good time to be very optimistic, really. There's huge changes happening technologically and in so many different ways. But the big picture, of course, is that we are not of this world. We're here in this world, but we're not of this. We are spiritual beings. There are countless realms of manifestation of consciousness. And we tend to think that this is the only one. It's a beautiful earth. And like you said, when we love the earth loves us back. And love other people, they love us back. We're here. We're in a realm of education and learning. And so the most important thing to me is that what happens in this outer world, in some ways, is outside of my control. Political things happen, and wars and economic things happen. But what's always within my control, actually, is my response to what's happening out there. And that's a tremendous power. Each one of us can essentially choose how we respond to whatever is happening. If someone says something to me that's insulting or something, I don't have to get angry and say something back to them. I can respond differently and send them love, right? So the whole idea is that we have tremendous freedom. We can always respond according to our consciousness. And as we raise our consciousness, our response gets to a higher and higher vibratory level. And pretty soon we realize that nothing in the outer world ultimately can affect us, because we're the sky, and the world is the clouds. And the clouds can seem to be very powerful and completely cover the sky. But when we realize we're the sky, the clouds do not interfere with us. We are infinite and eternal, radiant being, and clouds come and go. So once we realize our true nature as the sky, then the worldly clouds can't really grab us. They never could, but we realize it. And I think that understanding comes through the inner practice of meditation in learning to quiet our mind and reconnect with our true nature. So, so the world, I think, we are, as human beings, I think we are on a path of getting to a higher level. And the main thing we have to understand is that our technology is not going to save us. The only thing that's going to save us or make our lives ultimately better is our spirituality. Technology very often separates us from nature and from each other. So it's important to reconnect with nature, reconnect with each other. And like Gandhi said, use appropriate technology and don't let it use us. We have to keep our connection with the natural world. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it all says about going back to the basics.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, Dr. Will, once again, if listeners, they would like to further connect with you, seek more wisdom, get to know more about your experiences, and also they would also like to read the World Peace Diet and your music as well. What would be the best way?
Yes, thank you. I think you can find our work, of course, on our website, which is either worldpeacediet.com or my name, willtuttle.com. It's available through the books are available through Amazon and other booksellers, and it's also the music through iTunes and Google and Amazon and different online places. And we're happy to be in touch with people through our website. We have our writings and videos. We have quite a few videos on YouTube. My wife has lots of vegan cooking, and we have lectures and music and gardening. And our tour schedule will be going on the road now for 5 months, traveling across the United States, giving lectures and concerts. So all of that's on our website. Yeah, so we're happy to stay in touch with people. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And listeners, I'll have all the links in the show notes. So go do check out the World Peace Diet book and also Dr. Tuttle's music and his spoken word, paintings, his schedules, upcoming events as well. And I think Dr. Will has really, really reminded us listeners that peace, it is a practice. And healing the planet isn't about fixing it out there, but it is about dissolving the separation in here. So, to everyone listening, I pray this conversation isn't about choosing between spirit or structure. It is about peace and passion. And also, thank you so much, listeners, for walking this path with us. Dr. Will, once again, I couldn't thank you enough for what you are doing and sharing your journey, your story with us. And it's really being it's really seeking inspiration from you and your wife as well. Badly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sana. Beautifully said. I really appreciate your wonderful platform here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, listeners, keep listening to Cosmic Conscience. Until next time, I'm your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.